The Senate Armed Services Committee and the Judiciary Committee as well. Senator, good morning to you. I know you've been waiting patiently there in Washington, D.C. What did you think of the case he just made there?
Well, good morning, Bill. It's good to be with you. And, you know, President Trump is exactly right. Our federal immigration laws give enormous discretion, enormous authority to the president to keep this country safe, and particularly over the question of refugees, over the questions of immigrants. Congress has passed immigration laws that explicitly give the president the authority to keep out any class of aliens who pose a threat to this country. And so the actions of an activist judge on the West Coast staying this order, and listen, the Ninth Circuit is famously the most liberal and activist court of appeals in the country. We may see some activist judges trying to put roadblocks in the way, but at the end of the day, the law is clear that the president has the authority to keep us safe. And for 8 years, President Obama refused to do so and kept letting in refugees who the FBI told us they couldn't vet to determine whether or not they were ISIS terrorists. That doesn't make any sense. And President Trump was right this morning. That was a big reason he was elected and Hillary wasn't, as people were tired of the federal government letting in people who we don't know if they're terrorists or not.
I got a couple of things to tick through here. Quickly, you've argued cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. I think 9, is that right, if memory serves?
Yes.
9 cases. Is this where this, regardless of what happens in San Francisco, is this where we're headed?
Well, I think it's likely going to the Supreme Court. I'm not terribly optimistic about the Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit. As I said, it is a famously activist and lawless court.
In a court that's 4-4, would you expect one of the liberal judges to rule on behalf of the administration? Some have suggested Elena Kagan might be that one. Do you think that?
You know, Bill, I don't know. I would hope this decision would be unanimous. It should be unanimous. The statutes are very clear. But there's no doubting we're living in a very politicized world right now. Politics is hot, and those on the left are angry. You know, we're seeing liberals engaged in what I'm calling Trump derangement syndrome, where they're in denial and they're filled with rage and fury. I hope if and when this case gets to the Supreme Court that the more liberal justices there don't let their political and partisan leanings cloud what I think is really a very easy legal question, which is just following the plain text of the immigration laws that Congress has passed.
President Trump tweeted this earlier today. If the U.S. does not win this case, as it so obviously should, we can never have the security and safety to which we are entitled. Politics, exclamation point. Put that argument to the side now. Let's talk about what happened overnight with Senator Elizabeth Warren on the floor of the Senate. She was asked to conclude her remarks based on the maligning, so to speak, of another U.S. Senator, that being Jeff Sessions, now nomination still debated to be the next Attorney General. You, by some Republicans a few years back, were criticized for going after Senator McConnell on the floor of the Senate. Is this different or not now, Senator?
Well, listen, it's another example last night of what I said a minute ago, Bill, which is that the Democrats are angry and they're out of their minds. You know, we're seeing in the Senate Democrats objecting to every single thing. They're boycotting committee meetings. They're refusing to show up. They're foaming at the mouth practically. And really, you know, where their anger is directed, it's not at Republicans. Their anger is directed at the American people. They're angry with the voters. How dare you vote in a Republican president, a Republican Senate, a Republican House? You know, they are right now embracing what many of the Senate Democrats are taking as the lesson of this election was that Hillary was too moderate. And they need to go more Elizabeth Warren, more Bernie Sanders, more extreme and on the fringes. I think that's really unfortunate. And I think last night you saw that with Elizabeth lashing out at Jeff Sessions and really lashing out at the American people because she's angry about the election.
Should she have been able to continue or not? Or wasn't she, perhaps you can make a case, playing by the same rules that you were playing by, Senator?
Well, listen, I wasn't there on the Senate floor last night. I was actually over on another network, on CNN, in a 2-hour debate with Bernie Sanders on Obamacare. And I got to say, at the time, we were having the sorts of debates that I think ought to happen a lot more often. You know, on most issues in politics, you get 60 seconds or 90 seconds, and everyone talks through their talking points, and you're done. We spent 2 hours in a town hall with CNN answering questions, delving down.
I watched part of that, but you know the left is fired up, and Elizabeth Warren is in part helping to lead that charge.
Well, and I got to say, by the way, the charges that she was making against Jeff Sessions are demonstrably false. They're slanderous. They're ugly. And it's one of the crutches. You know, when the left doesn't have any other arguments, they go and just accuse everyone of being a racist. And it's an ugly, ugly part of the modern Democratic Party. Jeff Sessions is an honorable, decent person. The charges that she was recounting, you know, Senate Judiciary Committee, we had extensive hearings. We heard from witnesses, people involved in these false charges. And I'll point out, listen, the Democrats are the party of the Ku Klux Klan. You look at the most racist, you look at the people, the Dixiecrats. They were Democrats who imposed segregation, imposed Jim Crow laws, who founded the Klan. The Klan was founded by a great many Democrats, and yet now the Democrats just accuse anyone they disagree with of being a racist. That was a false smear of Jeff Sessions, and I think he's going to make an extraordinary Attorney General. After 8 years, we deserve an Attorney General who'll be faithful to the law and faithful to the Constitution.
Last question. Got about 30 seconds left for this. You mentioned Obamacare, the debate last night with Senator Sanders there. Senator Bob Corker said in recent days that there is no congealing around any particular idea. So if that is the case, what is the reality facing Republican majority in Congress on repeal, replace, repair, whatever you want to call it, Senator?
The reality is twofold. Number one, we've got to deliver on the promises we made. This election was a referendum on Obamacare. For 6 years, we promised the voters we're going to repeal it. We've got to deliver. I believe we're going to. Number two, there's a lot of agreement on elements to replace Obamacare that are all focused around expanding your choice, putting power in the hands of you, the patient, to make your health care decisions with your doctor without government getting in the way. Some of those ideas there's a lot of agreement on is allowing you to buy health insurance across state lines so that you drive down prices, expand choice, expanding health savings accounts, and making health insurance portable so you don't lose it when you lose your job, that it goes with you from job to job.
Not an easy lift. You'd agree with that, right, Senator?
Well, we got a lot of work to do, but I'm excited to be rolling up my sleeves and getting to work. This election was a mandate